are very thankful that you're here so that we wouldn't be speaking to ourselves. Anyway, I'll introduce myself. I'm Kobe Davis. I work actually as the admin assistant at Archer. And so this was my first year to work there in that role, and I learned a whole lot of things, for sure. One of the things, though, that when I was hired last year, so last year I worked as an instructional facilitator at Archer, and but as an instructional facilitator, true enough, that was my title, but it was very different than any other instructional facilitator in the district because I focused only on behavior. So it was not like an instructional facilitator as most. But Shawna had brought me over from Sonora, and we really felt like we needed to do something different with discipline at the alternative school. And she had heard about this program called Restorative Justice, and we just felt that that was something that could work very well in an alternative environment. And the more and more that we've learned about it, we believe it's something that can work everywhere, but I can talk very specifically to what it's like at an alternative school. I'll try not to be very long because there's 3 of us presenting, so Sara's going to present a little bit about what they're doing with Restorative Justice at J.L. Kelly, and then Damon's going to switch shifts completely at the end and talk a little bit about Google. So I'll try to be very timely in sharing what we're doing at Archer, and hopefully it'll be something that you can use and maybe modify and make it work in your facility. So building restorative community in alternative setting. So this is what we've done. I'm going to skip some slides. When I prepared this originally, I thought that I had an hour. And so then when I learned I didn't have a full hour, so I'm going to cut some things. We don't have to talk so much about what you know and what you're doing. But I do want to share with you a video because I feel like this video will give a very good picture of our program, and you'll hear from some of our teachers and some of our students. So I would love to share this with you just as we start.
Restorative justice is making our students accept responsibility for what they've done and make an effort to make things right.
Restorative justice is like coming to an agreement with yourself, like to not do something that you know isn't good for you. And
restorative justice is an opportunity for us, people, for example, a teacher or a student, to communicate with their peers or their partners.
To me, restorative justice is an opportunity for kids to reflect on choices they've made and come back and try to repair some of the relationships they've damaged, try to make things right again, more or less on their own, just based on kind of a reflection of
relationship with them and to understand what they're thinking. It's not just someone giving punishment, it's them explaining what they're thinking and also coming to terms with how other people perceive what they've done and helps them to make things right.
Well, what I like about the circle is that, like we can learn from everybody around us. Not many people can open up, but it can take time. And I really like that. Like, it doesn't have to rush it or anything, but we just take our precious time to learn from one another.
I really like how everybody communicates in a circle and how we don't see it being an argument all the time and we don't argue in circles. It's like a place where we can all meet and be civilized, I guess. So yeah, that's what I think the circle is good about.
What I like most about Circle is just the kind of laid back atmosphere, time to kind of be yourself, be really organic with your conversations with kids, and to see them reciprocate that by just opening up and, you know, feeling like they're in a safe place to share their feelings, their thoughts, in their homes.
I don't know anything about circle. Let's see. Probably the one good thing about circle is that you have this object in your hand that you have an opportunity to talk.
My favorite part about the circle was that we all got to share something about each other, and so we got to know each other a little bit more, not only from school, but a little bit, just a little bit personal. They got to know what I feel personally, and I got to know a little bit about them a little more outside of school, how they are, and how they treat their families. So that was a good thing about the circle, that we get to know each other a little bit more outside from school.
So there's a couple more pictures, but this just was an example of what restorative justice looks like in our school. If I were to give a definition for restorative justice, I would talk very specifically about how whatever has occurred, whatever it is, there's always someone who's been harmed. And we are working to come up with strategies to heal those harms. So if someone breaks a rule in your school, that hurts someone in some way, so then we want to have conversations about how do we repair what you've done wrong. We are trying at Archer to give students an opportunity to address issues differently than has been done at other schools. It is probably very safe to say that our kids have been very unsuccessful in traditional settings, and regular consequences just do not work for them. So, you know, detention and suspensions and those things do not faze our students. Many of them are very happy to take a detention or to take a suspension because that means they don't have to deal with teachers, or they don't have to deal with school, or they don't have to deal with students or whatever. And so we know that we have to be more creative in thinking of ways to really reach them, because ultimately our goal is to teach them. And if that's our goal, then we just have to figure out how to engage them in what we're doing. So as I said, you know, it's just a different way for us to approaching. This talks a little bit about kind of our feelings about restorative justice, but these are some of the things that we see, which I'm sure you see them in your school. We just see a lot of it in our school. We have a lot of kids, you know, with all kinds of stuff, from profanity to just being disrespectful. And mental health is very big in our alternative school. You know, a lot of our kids are struggling with things personally that make it difficult for us sometimes to figure out ways to help and support them. And so in restorative justice, the way that we mostly use it is through a format we call Circle. And that's where we sit together and we talk and we discuss things. And I'll talk a little more about that. Forgot I had this clicker. I'm gonna skip that. This is just to show a little bit about kind of our history. So over the last 3 years, we have been just tracking kind of what our discipline referrals looked like. The year before we came to Archer, they had 285 discipline referrals. Let me just explain how significant that is. Our max capacity in the 10-12 is only 185 kids. So, I mean, that's pretty significant that there were that many discipline referrals. I mean, that is, every kid had 1.5 discipline referrals, basically. You know, last year we had 38. This year, as of the last time we pulled the data, I think we had 28, and I think when we just pulled it a couple days ago, it was about 40. We're not gonna see a major drop again. I mean, I think around about 38, 40, that's probably really good, and we're probably not gonna get much better than that. I mean, we're gonna still have kids who need discipline referrals from time to time, but it has significantly dropped. And the reason it's dropped is before a referral is written and a consequence is given, we communicate with kids. And we actually meet together and using this format of restorative justice. So we meet in a thing called Circle. Circle is something that is not native to restorative justice. It's just one of the formats you can use with restorative justice. Circle really, I mean, like, what's the literacy circle thing called that people use? Yes, I mean, that's Circle too. I mean, it's where people come together and there's no head and everyone talks and everyone's able to share. It's the same concept. And we do that format with our restorative justice meetings, where students sit together and we create these centerpieces. The centerpiece has to represent the conversation. It may be different every time we meet. So sometimes, a lot of times, our students, we want graduation to be one of their focuses because these are 10th through 12th graders who have already gotten behind in school and they're wanting to graduate. So sometimes we'll have a cap in the, you know, like a graduation cap in the centerpiece. Sometimes it'll be things the students made. In our advisory groups, when they do restorative justice circles, they actually will make things in their advisory group that represents each student. And so when you come together, the centerpiece kind of tells a story for the conversation. So it's like you have something to focus on in the middle. I mean, you see here we got a little candle. It says ALC. We have one of our t-shirts. And then sometimes we add things to Circle to make the centerpiece even more, I guess, decorated. Here, like these note cards are words that students have written about things that are important to them, so it can really guide us in our conversation with them. You can see, like, here's a different centerpiece. There you can see is our like metal detector wand. That would be significant for some reason in a circle. That down there at the bottom, that's actually a charger for an ankle monitor. So for example, in that circle, these were very important things in the conversation. These leaves that you see, they actually made these leaves that represented the things that were most important to them in their lives. And so that was a part of the centerpiece. So that as they were having the conversation, we kept going back to what was most important to you. Like, think about that as you're dealing with the situation. These are the types of circles that we have at Archer. We do welcome circles every time we get a new student from one of the juniors or the high schools. We'll do a welcome circle, and that's where we're getting to know them, and we like to talk about specifically what happened as to why you're needing to come to Archer. So what was that hurt, and then how are we going to heal it? And then we do conflict circles. So anytime students get in arguments with other students or they're in trouble in a classroom, before we start looking at discipline referrals and consequences, we'll do a conflict circle. In our advisory groups, they do community building circles. We do reflective circles when there are things that happen, and then transition or reentry circles. And we're still working on the reentry circles. So anytime a kid is suspended, we like to actually have a circle to bring them back into the community. We sometimes don't get that scheduled, and so some kids come back and then we haven't met with them. And the reason why is just because I don't know how it is in your schools, but in our school for sure, when a student is suspended, it's almost like they've forgotten what it's like to be at school. And so we like to bring them back and have a conversation, remind them of what is the expectation, find out what's going on, how are they feeling, and so forth to build that community. This is an example of what a story in a welcome circle would look like. We probably would do something fun as an opener, like we might just talk about something fun, like, oh, what's your favorite food, just to get everyone talking. Interestingly, we've not had many circles where kids don't participate. I think when we started this, I thought that most kids would be hesitant to participate and hesitant to share, but that has not been the case. Typically, we'll do the first circle that's kind of just for fun. We'll talk about the process of holding a talking piece. Kids share, they're happy to talk. Parents, it's amazing to me what parents will share with us sometimes. I've learned so many things about kids' parents. I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't want to know that about you. But it's been helpful to understand why their kid is who their kid is and why we have some of the situations we have. They tell a story about joy, establish what's important, what are the values in their life, what's something that has harmed them, what's a time when they felt harmed by somebody else or by themselves, and then how do we heal that harm, and then we talk about supports and how to support the kid. What's really great is at the very end when we do the round of support, we actually create a plan of these are things this kid needs, and we give that to their advisory teacher. And so their advisory teacher is going to follow up and make sure that we're looking to meet those needs, whatever they are. So that's what we're trying to do in every one of those. We do conflict circles. Sometimes we have to have a contract of sorts before we begin a conflict circle. We had a really bad situation last year with some kids. It kind of turned into a racial situation. And so like we were asking that, there couldn't be any mad dogging during the circle. So sometimes we have to set some guidelines or a contract of some sort. This is one of our teachers actually during advisory, leading an advisory circle. These circles are not nearly as negative, I should say, or they're not usually about negative things. These might just be community building circles. This might be just students talking. Ideally, if they're having advisory circles, these community building circles all the time, then the circle is so comfortable for students that when we have conflicts or we have serious issues, we bring them to circle and it's not hard. This was a really tough circle. This past year, one of our students, and he actually killed himself. He had graduated the year before and he took his life. And a lot of our Marshallese students had been very close to this student. And they were rightfully so, really affected by this situation. And so we came together and just had a reflective circle about how are we feeling and why are we feeling this and what do we need so that we can move forward and what would the student expect from us if he were here. And it was really very positive that they were able to come together and talk and share. And it allowed us to see which students probably needed more support after that circle was over. We actually had a counselor and our Youth Bridge counselor there for the circle so that if something was revealed that needed more attention, that they could actually address it. And there were a couple students that needed more attention after that conversation for sure. So it was a very good circle for us. But being restorative in nature is asking questions about how can we always fix whatever's been messed up. Like whatever it is. And we're trying to do that in so many ways. So like even if a kid is tardied, instead of saying because you're tardied, here's your consequence for being tardied, we're saying, well, how do we repair that? Like what is our goal? What is our overarching goal? You skip school. Well, I could just say you don't get a grade and you fail the class, but what could we do to try to repair the fact that you weren't here? And so we're trying to be restorative with everything. We're trying very hard, and I'm going to tell you, we're still growing because that's a paradigm shift. That's so different than any traditional school, but being alternative, it allows us some of that flexibility. And but a lot of that is in the partners that we have. We work with AmeriCorps, which I think that's ending, and that's really sad to us because that has been a wonderful partner for us these past years. We have a really good relationship with the court system. We really know the judge. It's kind of unfortunate that she knows us so well, but she does, and we really communicate with them a lot. We know the parole officers, and that's beneficial because if we're talking about restoring the community in our school, we sometimes have to think about what are the things that are affected by outside of our building. And so we have relationships with them. And then Youth Bridge is that's our main mental health partner, but we also work very closely with Ozark Guidance. And Teen Action and Support Center has been great for us. We have a lot of students who have children, and so part of helping them restore their own communities is dealing with their families and the situations that they have when they have kids in their home that are their own children and they're still coming to school. So we know that being restorative means having partners, and so we're working on those things. It is important for us to just state that we don't see restorative justice as, we don't see it as this program that is overarching for everything. It's more of something you can pull ideas from. So we say it's more of the toolbox, not the tool. You know, a lot of times I think as educators, we like to grab onto something and we try to turn that into the program, that everything is this. And restorative justice can't be that. It's we pull ideas from restorative justice, this whole idea. And that's why we say we're not really just using restorative justice. We're trying to build a restorative community. And that's just our way of looking at it at Archer. This is what we're planning to do next year, and this is how we're going to continue to grow our program. One thing is we're going to create this restorative movement. I'm very excited about it. We're going to try very hard to create these little signs and hashtags that helping teachers to be restorative with whatever they're doing. You know, and just once again, really trying to be restorative and highlighting like, oh wow, look at what this person did that was extremely restorative. And so we're building this restorative movement. We're going to work on the reentry circles. I mean, like I said, we've started those. We've not been consistent. We're going to use those more often. We're incorporating our mindful practices. We actually applied for a grant. This is going to sound kind of crazy, and I mean, I'll be honest, all of this is outside of my normal thinking and outside of my normal comfort zone. I have grown to appreciate it. I did not originally think this was good stuff. But one thing we're going to do new is this mindfulness. And if you're familiar with that, I mean, it's basically like meditation. And we're going to try it next year. We're going to work with this company in Bentonville and try to use some mindful practices where students can have opportunities to sit and think about choices that they're making. We're going to enhance our partnerships, and then we're just beginning to have student-led circles and restorative justice things. And one of the kids that was in the video, Carrie, he's precious in so many ways, and Carrie actually led his own circle. He just wanted to one day. He wanted to talk about something. He said, "Can I do a circle?" And we were like, well, "Of course you can." And so we're hoping to do that more. We're trying to engage our students to start leading their own. So I think that is all that I have. And then I will pass this over to Sara.
I know how to put this on. Okay, so I'm just going to talk to you for a little bit about what this looks like at J.O. Kelly. So a little bit of information about J.O. Kelly, if you're not familiar, I'm sure most of you are. Maybe, there we go. J.O. Kelly is about 90% poverty. We're about 65% English language learners. We have approximately 700 some odd students, plus we're growing this year. The majority of our students are live kind of like behind the airport, over off Powell Street. It's a lot of poverty. Our students come from really hardworking families who love them a lot and take care of them a lot, but struggle with supervision, struggle with being an adult before they really need to be an adult, and making choices and decisions that an 11-year-old shouldn't have to make. And so with things like that comes, like Kobe said, a lot of harm. And it's not always necessarily their fault. It's because they didn't know a better way to handle things. And so we've moved to trying to incorporate as many restorative practices as we possibly can into our discipline system. A big thing about restorative justice, or I say restorative practices, is this orange square. And so when we talk about what we've traditionally done and what I experienced as a teacher, we did things to students. So a student made a mistake and we put them in detention. And that's punitive. It is what it is. a student did this, and so we suspend them. It's punitive. So this is doing 2. Doing nothing, if we were just to ignore it, is considered to be neglectful. And then doing things for them. So they skipped school, and I brought them back, but we didn't have a conversation about it. That was the neglectful. They skipped school, and I went ahead and gave them their grade, or I went ahead and did something for them. That's being permissive. So I'm sort of what some people would say rewarding their poor behavior. The goal that we always want to do is be in that orange zone. So we want to do things with them that teach them about their behaviors and help them repair the harm. And it is an investment in them. And that's our goal every single time, is if they're making mistakes, they need more support. And so we're looking for as many ways to give them the support and structure that they need to be successful. Whenever we start to have a major issue with a student, they are flooded with as many resources as possible. And that's probably the biggest part about restorative practices. Even if we have to suspend a student, when they come back, we're gonna flood them with everything we can give them. As many teachers, as many mentors, as many support people, counseling, whatever we can do to make sure that this doesn't happen again, that they've learned from it, and that they're coming back into a place where they can be happy and successful. Students are always a part of this process. They're part of the decision-making process, they're a part of the circles that take place, but the big idea here is that these are things that we're doing with them, not to them, not for them, and not ignoring their mistakes or harm that they've caused. So our big goal, and it's not always possible, but is to restore rather than exclude. So what we want to do is, if a student makes a mistake, I want to keep them for more time and work with them rather than send them home as much as I possibly can, or send them to ISS. Are there times that we still send students to ISS? Absolutely. Are there times that we still suspend and expel? Absolutely. But whenever we possibly can, we use a program or a system that we've created called Behavior Academy to support our students through restorative practices. Our goals are always to teach them how to resolve conflict better. 11 and 12-year-olds already don't know how to resolve conflict better, and when they don't have the supports that they need or the models they need, they really make bad decisions in how to do that. Empathy is a big thing. Teaching them how to see the other person as a person, whether it's an adult or the custodian, a teacher, another student, however, getting them to see them as another person who has thoughts and feelings and has been harmed themselves is a big part of what we do. We teach them how to be reflective, and a big deal is that we look for root cause. And so this is probably what we spend a lot of time doing with students who are chronic misconduct. So let's say that they talk a lot in class and they're always late and they're not turning in their work, and all of these just sort of this huge issue of things. We really spend a lot of time with them doing activities that look for the root cause of that behavior. When did this all start? Where did things go wrong? Because you've got to go all the way back there to start moving forward again. So I come back to my pyramid, and if you've been with me, I talk about this a lot, but one thing that I want you to know is part of our overall system, there are restorative practices in all of it. So at the tier 1 level, for what we do for students, there are restorative practices. There's community building, there's advisory circles, there's things that happen at that tier 1 level. At tier 2, there are other things that happen, other interventions that take place. There's Behavior Academy that happens during prime time. There's Behavior Academy that happens during the day. At the tier 3 level, there's intensive supports for students who are struggling. So restorative practices are not just one piece, it's part of everything that we do. So some of the different circles that we use are classroom circles, so teachers that lead circles, and Kobe kind of talked to you about some of those things. One of my personal favorite classroom circles, and I think it's so easy for people to do, is where there's a teacher who at the end of the week, they all get into a circle and they're just having a conversation kind of about how their week went, and they do give a compliment or get a compliment. And so you just say, the piece comes to you and you say, hey, I want to give a compliment to Damon because I think that he did a really great job this week on that math problem, and then you pass it to the next person. Well, the next person might choose to give a compliment to someone, or might say, you know what, I had a bad week, today's been a bad day, I could really use a compliment. And someone in the circle steps up and gives that person a compliment. And you know, they need support in learning how to do that, but it's a great circle that's really easy and not intimidating to teachers. And it's community building and treating each other better and just kind of teaching that kindness. A big one that we do is re-entry circles. So this year we had 3 re-entry circles on the same day, back to back, for 3 boys that were expelled for a semester and coming back to us. And so we bring their teams in, and we spend a good 45 minutes doing a re-entry circle with them, explaining to them how it made us feel, explaining to them what we need to see different, asking them what they need from us, making a plan for support. So doing all of those things. Student conflict circles, we spend time there. We bring students in when they have an issue with one another, especially in bullying situations when there's an obvious victim. We like to have circles where we teach our kids how to address an issue with somebody who's bothering them. And they can be very powerful circles. And then Behavior Academy is another big piece, and that's what I'm gonna mostly talk to you about. So when I talk through Behavior Academy, there's a lot of different ways that we use Behavior Academy. The main way that we use it is Ms. Hayter and I will pull students who have issues with one another and have circles, and it could take place during the school day, it could take place after school, there's lots of different times that it happens. This year, and what we've done this past year, is worked with teams. We have a school-wide discipline plan, and as students work through that plan, they set a goal for the week. And if they meet their goal, then they're awesome to go home on Friday, and if they're not meeting their goal, then they're staying with us for Behavior Academy on Fridays, so that we can work through what some of those issues are and prevent having another bad week. And so we are kind of flexible with our Behavior Academy and how we use it, but it is typically take place after school, and it's something that our parents are fond of. And so there's a variety of reasons that people attend. So it could be for chronic behavior issues, it could be for conflicts with peers, conflicts with teachers, not coming to school. We may also combine our Behavior Academy with other consequences. So this year there was an issue with a student. They had ISS for 5 days, and then they were assigned Behavior Academy for so many days afterwards to do work to repair harm that had been caused and to come back to us as a better person who could be more successful. So as we talk through Behavior Academy, when we bring students in as a group, so typically what happens if we bring students in as a group, it means that some sort of major incident has occurred. So this year there were a group of girls who had been harassing their band teacher and another student in the classroom. And so I spent a lot of time, almost a full week, working with those girls after school in circle. And we did a lot of things to improve their behavior and to fix the harm that was caused. And so there's lots of different things. It's designed about what it is that the student needs. And sometimes we all have to collaborate to figure out what that's gonna be, because they do things that are crazy sometimes. But we always start with a talking circle. So we always sit around together and talk about what happened. And the big thing during that time is getting them to take ownership for what happened and getting them to say what they did and come to terms with what they did. We bring in other adults. We bring in, I'll ask them at the beginning, who's your favorite teacher? And at some point that person will be invited to circle. And it's a lot of times our kids don't have a trusted adult in their lives, and a lot of times it is their teachers. So that experience of the teacher who they love and care about being a part of that circle, and them having to own up to what they've done and talk through and deal with that in front of them, is that sort of parenting, you know, that, oh, I disappointed someone, or someone, you know, admitting that harm in front of that important person is a big turning point for them. There was one time where we had Behavior Academy that went on for about 3 weeks. It was a major discipline incident, And every night, or I'm sorry, once a week from like 6 to 7, their parents had to come. So I worked with them for a while, and then that night their parents came in and we did family meetings because the incident was so big that we needed to repair a lot of harm. They had caused harm to their families, they had caused harm to themselves, a lot had happened. And then we do a lot with root cause and future planning. Here's what I will tell you about Behavior Academy and what I will tell you about restorative practices. I can't tell you how to do it because it's different based on every single situation. What I can tell you is if you jump in with the idea that I want to fix this problem and I want to do it in a way that involves the students. So not just me sitting here lecturing you, but I want us to build a conversation and build some common understanding, then it takes time, but they don't repeat the behavior. So my kids who have had major Behavior Academy where they've had to stay for a while, don't come back. And they don't come back like now they're getting ready to be, the 12 disciples are getting ready to be 10th graders. And guess what? They're all still in school. And none of them have gotten in trouble for the same thing that they got in trouble for at J.O. Kelly. So none of them have been kicked out of school for drugs. So now have they had some other issues? Yes, one of them got into a fight. She called me and told me and like we dealt with it. But they haven't had the same issues that they have had in the past. And so I feel like when we do this, we invest all this time and all this energy, but the reward we get back out is totally worth it. Because we're not having to redo it over and over again. The number of students that I put in lunch detention over and over and over again is like crazy. Like, why do I keep doing this? But when I do this, I get the reward that I'm looking for. This is, if you're on my slides, you can see this a little bit better, but this is what it looks like in the room when you do Behavior Academy with just you and one other person. It's pretty intense. We have students who have had chronic issues for a long time. And so one of these talks about the values of gang members and who they want to be as a person. The other one talks about future planning. But the big thing is that we invest that time in those students to really help them work through the things that they need to work through and make a plan for improvement. And I had a boy that I worked with last year who would come to me by the end of the year. He had a lot of Behavior Academy, individual sessions on a regular basis. But by the end of the year, he would say, I feel like today's going to be a bad day, and I think we need to make a plan. And that was like amazing because we were making the plan before the incident occurred. And that's like a huge step. That's grown-up thinking. And that's what I needed him to do. Was he still having bad thoughts? Was he still thinking about punching somebody in the face? Yes, but he could see those things before he ever did it. And so this is just a lot of the work that we do. This is a huge piece of the work we do. And if I gave you one thing to teach your students, and you probably do this a lot, but even high school students and everybody, our kids don't know how to apologize. They don't know how to apologize and like really apologize. If I talk bad about Damon behind his back and he comes in, and I go to Damon a lot, you're just right there, and he comes and confronts me on it, I'm not gonna be like, sorry, and keep moving on. I'm gonna have a genuine apology to give, and we can't repair harm if we don't first start with an apology. So we tell our students, the first thing you start with is I'm sorry. And then you explain what you did. So I'm sorry for, you explain it. I hope you can forgive me. This won't happen again, or next time something like this happens, this is what I will do. And we give them those sentence frames, and we teach them how to give a proper apology to adults, to other students, to anybody. Because you cannot rebuild trust and repair harm until people get that. Yes, sir?
I just want to make a quick little input to that. I saw this about 5 years ago when I took a kid that wanted to apologize, that probably had never apologized in his entire life, ever. It's Marshall's kid, to a teacher, and he did give a lame apology. But I mean, probably the first time I did it,
Right.
it was probably pretty lame too. And the teacher said, well, that's not a very good apology. You're not even looking me in the eye, blah, blah, blah. And I just went, well, you know, we're ending this.
Mhm.
So it made me realize that I also have to teach teachers how to accept apologies
Yes.
also.
Yes.
So, and how to coach kids back, when, even if it's a lame-o
Mhm.
apology, because that kid, I even went back and told that teacher, you might have made that kid never want to apologize again.
Right.
Ever, because of the experience he had this time on his first time apologizing. So then they made it all right, and it all wound up being great, but it made me realize that teachers don't know how to receive, some teachers, I'd say some,
Right.
don't know how to receive it also.
And see, you repaired harm there.
Right.
That had you not been watching or had you not been aware of the situation, could have caused him harm later on in life and could have caused her harm to many other students.
Right.
And so teaching people, I mean, it's amazing how many adults don't know how to apologize properly.
Right.
I mean, it's just something that we don't, we need direct instruction in that sort of thing. I've become a better apologizer by teaching people how to apologize properly. It's a hard thing.
And I
It's,
think, I know one of the things I see a lot with my students this year was when I take the student to go down to apologize, the kids wanted to say it's okay. So they don't
Yes.
know how to respond because it's not okay
Right.
what they've done. And so then at that moment, that's a teachable moment too, and I would just teach them, no, it's not okay.
Mhm.
You know, what you say is, I accept your apology.
Yes.
Or, you know,
I
something
forgive
like
you,
that.
or, yeah.
That's a big one too, because
Mhm.
a lot of our kids don't know how to accept it. They just want to say it's okay, and we don't want to teach them that it's
Right.
okay. So.
And it's amazing to me how quickly they pick up on it in circles and how quickly they can improve upon that. You know, we all know that given direct instruction, that in a behavior, they'll, most of the time, 80% of your students can take that and grow from it and do better. And so given that opportunity to learn the right way to do it, how to accept an apology, do all of those things can just take care of a lot of issues really quick. So these are things that students have said to us or reflected on after their experiences. And a lot of it has to do with thanking us for not giving up on them, thanking us for our time and helping them not be somebody who goes to jail. We talk about a lot the 12 disciples, which were our 12 kids who were involved in a pretty significant issue involving drugs at school. And they stayed after school for weeks. And they were the ones that their parents came in. They spent time with a teacher who really kind of embraced them and took care of them. And those relationships haven't quit. And their culminating activity was to spend time with their trusted adult at the last meeting. And some of them reached out to their elementary school teacher. Some of them reached out to current teachers. But those people came in, they read them letters that explained what they had done, apologized again, asked for forgiveness. But it's really about teaching them how to take ownership for what they've done and repair harm. Because what we see a lot, and I'm sure most of you know this, is like a kid that bullies people is a kid that was bullied, right? A person that hits their spouse was probably hit earlier. And so if we don't do things to repair harm, then we're just creating a community of people who continue to harm. And so our approach to that is through Behavior Academy and circles. This is Ms. Ford's reflection about sort of our experiences. And I always go back to this one because she talks about perception. And so it says, it's all about their perception. I thought I had a good relationship with a lot of these kids. However, when we took the mask off, gained some trust, and they were given permission to speak freely, the good relationship I thought we had was really one-sided. There were trust issues and misconceptions. And I thought they knew that I liked them. Their perception was that I saw them as bad kids. The conversation reminded me it's not about what I think, it's about what they perceive. And so that, for me, goes all the way back to this. If all I'm ever doing is punitive and to them, then I'm never getting like their full participation in things. They're never really growing. It's got to be that they have a voice in what's going on. Their side has to be heard. Their hurt has to be harmed. All of those things. And making that investment has helped us tremendously avoid reoccurring issues. And that's, I think, what we're always looking for. Somebody, gets into a fight at school. I don't want 2 weeks from now for them to get into another fight. I want to have repaired the harm and addressed the problem. I would have loved to have fixed it before the fight ever happened, but sometimes that doesn't work out for us. That's it. So, questions? It's hard to talk about Behavior Academy and tell you what to do in Behavior Academy. Ms. Hayter and I could say, well, you should start with an iceberg, and then you should do this and do that. But what I can tell you is there's some kids that if I start with the iceberg activity, will never make progress because we didn't do enough ahead of time to get there. It's all about getting them in a room together and talking to them and then figuring out sort of a plan for how you're going to help this person deal with some of these issues they have. One of the things that I have started doing is work with executive function with them. So my students who stay on Fridays and sort of reoccur for not meeting their goal for the week, we do a survey in their executive function and we help them to work towards that. They love it. They think it's great to find out that they have a great memory or that they struggle with paying attention. They find those sort of things interesting and they're really into like working on that and improving that sort of thing. It's been a great experience for us. People have come over and watched and it's just sort of unique. You kind of have to see it a lot of times to see some of the different things that we do. Ms. Hayter does an activity with girls on tone where she teaches them about how you can say those are nice shoes and you can say those are nice shoes and you can say those are really nice shoes. And yeah, there's all those different ways to talk. And so just teaching them how those sort of comments and how your tone can change the way you make somebody feel. And so it's been a great program for us, a great system as part of our restorative practices. Before we send it off to Damon, do you have any questions for Kobe or I?
I think just one thing, in the video, which I loved watching the students talk about it, and even the kid who said, I don't like anything about circles, they don't often go into the circle liking talking about their feelings and liking talking about their mistake and all of that. And then he smiles and gives you a reason. So, I mean, he really, that is a skill that he's learned and enjoys, so I thought that was funny. But it said, one of the kids said, well, it kind of helped, but it took a long time. Mm-hmm. That was like the ding, ding, ding
yes.
of the video for me, just because it is so much easier to give a kid attention. So much quicker, but it does take time, and it's something that I feel like is worth our time. So those were just two of the pieces that I wanted to bring out, Kobe. I love your video, thank you. So.
Yes, sir.
At what point, or what maybe some of your triggers that you go, this is kind of beyond me, I need to bring in some external agencies, or I know, like Dr. Davis, you all have agencies at the school.
Mm-hmm.
So what are kind of some of the things you look for to say, that's beyond my capabilities?
I think self-harm has been an area. If somebody comes out with something like, so let's say that we're in a group session or a one-on-one, they get emotional and they tell you that somebody's been hurting them or they're thinking about hurting themselves. Those are times where I will close down a circle and say, you know what, guys, this is just not the right time. We're going to have to come back to this later, and dismiss everybody and spend time with that student and then get them resources that they need. I don't ever want somebody to disclose something in front of the group that like could for lots of people to know that and them not to have the help they need could impact them as a whole. But typically, I don't know that we've had an incident where that sort of thing has come out. Typically, we have a lot of conversation beforehand, before we have a circle. And so, but I will say that when you're talking about a victim and a bully, or multiple victims and somebody who has harmed them, occasionally those people will break down and tell you a story about how, you know, this kid in 3rd grade did all this stuff to him and that's caused him how to be this way. And so those situations always kind of make me a little, you just don't know what's going to come out in that. We do talk a lot about what is said in the circle stays in the circle, and our kids have always been really respectful of that. I think the one time that it got broken, a girl reported something that was said in the circle. They like flooded Ms. Hayter's office to like say she broke you know, and told, but it's always been a really positive
And
experience.
we talk to teachers about what circles need to happen. I mean, classroom circles aren't the time to solve personal problems.
Right.
So we talk to teachers about what kind of frames they put in front of kids and really try to work with them about, you know, circles and classrooms can be about for the good of the whole,
Mhm.
but not so much about putting somebody on the hot seat without preparing and disclosing personal.
Miss Hader had to do a circle in a classroom, and she did just girls about the way that girls felt like they were being treated in the room, not by the teacher, but by the other boys. And she dismissed all the boys from the room, and they could be a little bit more candid about it. But I would have wanted Miss Hader, Miss Hader handled that conversation, and I'm glad she did, because I wouldn't have wanted the teacher to try to do that, because you don't know what's gonna come out in that conversation. And I would never want to be a teacher who said something that I wished I had taken back, or brought something out that I wish I could take back. I wouldn't want to put that responsibility on them. And so we try to keep our classroom circles very light, and for the most part, they're like easy topics that are fun to talk about and comfortable to talk about. And the harder circles are done in the office or in smaller groups with counselors and us there to support.
I was gonna say, our circles aren't ever structured that, I just don't think that would come up. That's something where we had to immediately stop and bring in additional support. That's just not traditionally how it is. Even when we're doing conflict, it usually isn't structured so that it would be anything that we need immediate support. The only time we've asked for counselors to be there was when we knew we were talking about that suicide situation. But we do always try to be aware of students' thinking and their conversations. But part of the building circle for us is who we invite to the circle. So if there are 2 students and there's a conflict between 2 students, we try to have at least 2 representatives there plus a circle leader. And so what that means is student A needs someone who is their advocate, someone who can be on their side and kind of has their back. And student B needs their advocate and someone on their side and their back, and then someone to lead the circle. The reason why we do that is just because that way you get more comfort in that conversation. And I have found that even when I call students into my office for an issue, is if I invite an advocate for that student, even to talk about the issue, and I just say, hey, are you okay if we talk about this with this person? And it's been so much more productive to say, like, hey, this is going on. Their advocate is sitting there, part of the conversation. And so it just is, I think it's all about who we invite to circle that makes it a lot more comfortable for kids to talk and not necessarily get to pieces where we have to deal with having extra support. And even in that situation where we had the counselors, things that were said were not obvious enough that the counselors need to swoop in and do anything, but it was definitely an underlying issue that we were like, okay, please follow up with these students. They probably need more support later. I don't know, it doesn't normally turn into something that's very bad. It usually ends extremely positive. That's been typical for us, is that instead it's more a little bit kumbaya than, oh, let's get you some services.
There's a book right now that we're going to do a book study with our teachers on, but it's called Better Than Carrots and Sticks. I can't remember who the author is, but it's on the ASCD website right now. It's a simple read, and it makes a lot of sense from the classroom perspective about what Doug Fisher, sorry, it's a Doug Fisher book, about what it should look like in the classroom. Because we talk a lot about sort of that tier 3 level of restorative practice, but that tier 3 level of restorative practice wouldn't work if everything else wasn't there falling into place. And so we'll be doing that with our teachers this year and working through that, because they still feel like they need a lot of support and how to like conduct circles and how to help students through that and make sure it's a really positive, good experience for them. And so if you need a book, that's a great book for that.
Okay. I'm gonna have to skip through some of this, like the detailing stuff, but I'm gonna tell you that anybody who wants help with any building, you're gonna learn some terms that you probably never heard of. One of them is called formule. Who knows formule? Anybody? Okay, does anybody know form publisher? Anybody know autocrat? All those need to become a part of your vernacular if you want to really have your forms, for efficiency's sake, really impact your school on an efficiency standpoint. Okay, so if you want to get the presentation, Vanessa sent it out. I'm going to go ahead and go to present mode. You can, let's see, what was this? Oh, the Wi-Fi password there. That's for another training, sorry. Rhubarb, though, my good friend Martha Dodson, who's my best critical friend in the whole world, she asked me, she's going to watch the video later, and she said that I need to say rhubarb so that I know that, that I read her text. So I'm saying rhubarb right to you, Martha Dodson. So rhubarb. All right, so let's go on. All right, so there's a link to it there. You can, if you'll go to this file, everything I'm going to show you today is already built, and you're a collaborator. So you can just like take Hellstron's name off of it and put your name on it and change the questions and change it around and make it your own if you want to do that. All that I ask is that you don't edit the originals, because I have to do this presentation one more time, and it took me like 8 hours to put it all together, so I don't want to have to rework it all. Okay, so if you're planning on doing any of this stuff at your school, I highly recommend that you do this before you do anything else, and that you work from this. Okay, so I'm going to use J.L. Kelly as an example, since Sara picked on me a little bit. Okay, so I set up an email account at our school that's called, I called tech and I said, I need an email account that's called hmsemailer@sdale.org. Of course, they grilled me about why, what are you going to, who's going to use it, who's going to have access. So basically, that account is just like ddonnell@sdale.org, except it's hmsemailer@sdale.org. Okay, it has a Google Drive attached to it. It has email functionality. It has all the same functionality of anything that you would have on your account, except now it's just a fictitious person named hmsemailer@sdale.org, and you can name it whatever you want to. While I was sitting here, I'm telling myself now, I sent a help ticket to get an SOI emailer at sdale.org, okay? Because I need that. All right, so the reason why you do this is because when you do some of these email things I'm going to show you, that you won't get, if I set all this up from ddonnell@sdale.org, who's going to get all the person typed in the wrong email address, the person who's going to respond to it? A teacher may be filling this out, but who's going to get the response? ddonnell@sdale.org. And ddonnell@sdale.org gets plenty of emails right now, besides heaping on about 5,000 more, okay? So when I was setting all this up last summer, I started sending it out. I was having my staff test it, and they would make mistakes, and it would come back to me, this email doesn't exist. And I was like, okay, then we may have to shut all this down, because this isn't going to work, because I am not getting more emails. And so then I thought, how can I do this? I called tech, and it all led to that, okay? I highly recommend you do this. This is like a major deal. Once you do this, does everybody know how to go to your email account? And then this is the next thing you do. I'm just going to show you here. I can do it on my account. So let's just pretend that, you see this? Let's just pretend that this is the email account, okay? The HMS emailer account. So then I would go over here. Oops, I just told you wrong. You go over here to settings. You click settings here. You scroll all the way, and that's what this slide just told you to do. You scroll all the way down here to vacation responder, and you type what's on my presentation. You type, there will be no replies to this email. If you have questions or concerns, please call Hellstrom Middle School at 750-8725. So let me give you an example. If a parent gets an email from this emailer, and then they're like, well, I got questions about this, and what's going on, blah, blah, blah. They're going to hit send. As soon as they hit send, bam, they're going to get an email right back that said there won't be any responses to this email. You need to go and call Hellstrom Middle School. And we want them to do that. We don't want to email back and forth. Who hates emailing back and forth with especially, I don't think you get anything accomplished emailing back and forth with a parent.
just back and forth and back and forth and this and this. I think it's much better if you just sit down and have a conversation or talk to them on the phone. That's just me. So that's why I recommend you do it. Does everybody understand that or have any questions about that? Any questions or anything? Okay, I'm gonna keep going then. Oh, one more thing, one big thing. If you build like if you take some of these forms that I have and you make them your own, then you're gonna be the owner of them. It's gonna be like jhayward@sdl.org will be the owner. Don't build any of your emailing functionality until you transfer ownership to HAR-BER@email@sdl.org, because I know that's confusing and maybe I'll make it simpler. If I have a form that I built that I want my school to use, then I'm going to transfer ownership rights to hmsemailer@sdl.org, and then I'm going to build my emailer, okay? And I'll tell you about that later. Because if you build your emailer before, if you build your form mule before, and then you transfer ownership rights, it's still going to come from d.donnell@sdl.org. Okay, don't make all the same mistakes I made, because I had to do it all over again and redo it all. So if you'll just read this slide and do everything this slide tells you to do, you'll make 0 mistakes. All right, so the restorative justice piece, I tried to incorporate that into the form that we have in several different functionality ways. First up, there's a restorative justice part that you can assign as a consequence. That I don't really want to say it's a consequence, but it's a resolution to the problem, right? That'd be a better way to say it. So, and then every time that we have, anytime a kid is assigned some type of consequence, that grade level counselor is involved in either a kid coming back from ISS where they meet with that kid, or a kid that is assigned lunch detention multiple times, because I've been there too and that's just insanity. Then if they see that happening a lot, then they'll get with that kid and talk about how to stop that crisis situation type thing. So you'll see that in the form. Okay, so this form, this is how I presented it to my staff last year. I passed out triplicate forms, office referrals, to everybody in my staff. And I said, here's what you fill out. And I waited 5 minutes and let them all fill it out. And actually it took a little longer than that. It took about 7 to 8 minutes. We timed it. Okay, and they filled out Roy D. Mercer. He's in 6th grade. He was, 6'5", 17, Miss Smith's class, Chargers home base. They're writing all this on that trip. Who's got triplicate office referrals? So you know what I'm talking about. You're filling all that out on there. I should have put this. I'll do that later. The action taken, lunch detention. And then I had them all rip their triplicate forms apart into 3 triplicate forms. You got what copies? What colors are they? Everybody knows this.
Yellow, pink, and white.
Yes, yellow, pink, and white. So then I had them all get up, go to the office, and put the pink one in the detention teacher's box. And then they had to go find my box and put the other one in my box. And then they had to find the kid, and we assigned kids, and then they had to give that one to the kid. Now, I mean, that whole process took, I don't even want to know how long it took. It probably took 20 minutes to do all that. Okay? So then I went to the form and said, there's a better way to do this, I believe. And I need your help. And I said, let's try doing it this way. Now, before I get too involved in the form, I want to show you something right here. That this is part of our agenda. And this is about 12 years worth of development. It doesn't look like it, but it really is. This is this year's agenda, actually. Just sent it off. Okay, so everything's based around what we call behavior and assignment, behavior and missing assignment matrix. So it just basically tells a kid and parents and everybody, teachers, everybody should be on the same page. This is the first 9 weeks, second 9 weeks, third 9 weeks, fourth 9 weeks. If a kid gets a tier 1 behavior problem, the first time is always a warning. And then the second time is a lunch detention, third time AM or PM, fourth time, and then it's offers referrals after that. I never see anything 1 through 4. That's all teacher driven, teacher taken care of. I never see anything ever on 1 through 4s. And then this is what we're trying to be with restorative justice and being reflective and everything. Then the kid, the next 9 weeks, what do they get to do? They get to start completely over from scratch, right? Let's say they had 20 behavior marks the first 9 weeks. Well, now this time they can set a goal in their POP that says, hey, I only want to have 19, or 18. That might be better, and then this next 9 weeks it's going to be 12, and then the next 9 weeks hopefully they'll be at 4 or 5, So we're always looking for kids to write that in their POPs. The bottom part of this behavior matrix is just just tells in detail what should happen. And so for new teachers, this is great. If a kid gets in trouble for one of these tier 1 behaviors right here, and these are just some of the tier 1 behaviors, but we just put the most often ones here, then they get a warning. Then it says teacher records B2 on student's behavior log, teacher contacts student's parent by phone or email, teacher assigns lunch detention on the HMS Google Office referral, no-show, and the detention teacher takes care of all the no-shows. So the teacher, once they've assigned that, that's the end of it. And then the counselor gets involved on the other side, and I'll show you how that works. Same thing, it just directions on how to do it so that we get everybody doing the same thing. Next part, I won't go over this very much, missing assignments. This is just all the same stuff except missing assignments. That's all it is. Okay, so just remember all that's based around all of this, and everybody in our building does the same thing through this form. So let me close this, go back to my form, and this is the actual office referral form. Instead of a triplicate form, we use this all year long, and it worked wonderful. I mean, I would never, ever, unless Dr. Rollins said you're going to use a triplicate form, go back to a triplicate form. Ever go back to a triplicate form. It's just too time consuming and too archaic. And I would be up at school on Saturdays filing my yellow forms in file folders for 2 hours. You know what I mean? I just hated doing it. Okay, so here's how it works. I'll just use, since Sara picked on me, I'll pick on her a little bit. Is that okay, Sara?
Okay.
I love Sara to death, honestly. She's amazing. Okay, so Sara, right? And then Reeves, right?
Yep.
Okay, I just want to make sure I spell it right. She is female. She's in 7th grade. I tried to make all this clickable so that teachers can go through it real fast. Now, let me show you the way I do it. Is that you can do it the way I did it, is typing in the name, but here's what I did. I brought my Precious up, one of my Preciouses, and you can do this too. You can just have this pulled up. Oops. Damon. Well, you can highlight that, I guarantee you can, because I've done it a million times. There it is. Okay. You can copy that, go back to your form. Instead of Sara here, you can hit paste, and then what I usually do is just grab the last name and just slide it down into the form. Hang on, if I had the form low enough. Slide it to the last name spot. Does that make sense? So you don't really have to type anything on this form. You can pull it off from eSchool if you want to. And that's what I do a lot of times. I'm just going to hit Control-Z and put Sara back in there. Okay, but does that make sense? So you can pull anything you want and cut and paste it, all the parent contact, the email, everything, right out of eSchool. So it saves you a ton of time. Okay, so then I'm going to say that she is what team you want to be on?
Olympians.
She's going to be an Olympian. That's a good team. Then you'll have to type all your staff members, but here's all the staff members in our building. Let's just say that the band director wrote her up. And that these are two different, I'm going to show you something here. If it's a behavior mark, they click that and hit next and take them to a behavior mark section. Can you see that on the top right here? If it's a missing assignment, let me go back and I'll change my answer here. If it's a missing assignment, I click missing assignment and it takes me to a missing assignment section. Okay? If it's an office referral, which would be a what tier? Like tier 2 or 3. If it's an office referral, then it takes me to an office referral section. Does that make sense? So it takes me to a different section to complete a different purpose for each thing. All right? So I'm just going to do 2 of them real quick. I'm going to do a behavior mark. Oops, you don't want to hit back on that either. It completely knocks you out of the form. So you have to hit back on the form. I almost made a big boo-boo. Okay, so for behavior mark, why is behavior mark number 2 listed instead of behavior mark number 1? Does anybody know? Because 1 was a warning. So that's why it starts at 2. So then I'm going to click 2. I'm going to click, she's a big horse player. You see that? You're a horse playing class. All right, happened in the classroom. I'm going to assign lunch detention because I know on behavior mark number 2, it's a lunch detention. And right here it says, in our building, we always have a rule that anytime you assign a consequence, it's for the following day to begin. Because what we don't want is to bombard our lunch detention teacher the same day for all the lunch detentions just to be popping up on that same day. So does that make sense? So that it's always, he has a chance to always kind of get it the next day. So I'll assign it for the following day. Saturday school, Sara. This is what our counselors use right here. Let's just say that horseplay was a responsibility. I'll just put that. I'll show you in data later. They can pull data and see where kids need character education from the most. Where our biggest infraction. We're having a lot of kids being dishonest. We have a lot of kids, being respectful, or a lot of kids being disrespectful. We having a lot of empathy issues. I mean, what do they need to teach teens? Okay? So we'll just say it's that. And I'm just going to use my email so you can see what it looks like. But right here, you could put a parent email here. And our parents love this, by the way. When we hit submit and they get that on their phone immediately on their email, they absolutely, I've had probably 50 parents call me and say, I don't know what system this is, but I love it. I love getting this right immediately. So I'll put Damon Donnell at sdale.org. And a lot of you are going to say, well, hey, our parents just don't have emails. Well, I would task you and challenge you that if you come into your school, we did this and said, hey, we're going to use email this year to contact you. And here's some ways you can get a really fast email. Gmail, Yahoo, blah, blah, blah. It takes 30 seconds to get an email account. By the end of the week, we had probably 90% of our kids with email accounts that parents had sent in that said, hey, here's what we'd like to do. Does that make sense? So I press you on that one because I had teachers saying the same thing. Well, we don't have email accounts. And then when we did that, they're like, man, they got an email account. So as soon as you hit submit, boom, you're done with the referral. Okay? That referral now, I put my email in all 3 places, but you'll see here, hopefully it works. It's always bad when tech doesn't work. I've gotten 2 so far. I'm waiting on 1 more. Okay, so there's all 3 emails they were supposed to send. It's supposed to send 1 to the parent, 1 to the kid for due process, and 1 to the lunch detention teacher. Okay, which one's the lunch detention teachers? I'll be impressed if anybody knows this one. Which email? It's this one right here, right? And so what this is I set this up in the subject line on the form mule to where he doesn't even have to open his email. He knows that Sara Reeves is a female and she's an Olympian, and that Wada signed it. She has lunch detention on 6/17. Boom. He can just print that right off like that. Does that make sense? So in the subject line, I set that up in the code. And that may sound like scary code, but it's really just a mail merge. It's real easy to do. So let me take you through what these say now. Here's the one to the student. Dear student, this email to inform you received disciplinary action at Helster Middle School. Please see the below details. Sara Reeves, 7th grade, 5th period, Olympians, runner-up, behavior mark number 2, horseplay. And then notice missing assignment and all that's blank because there's nothing that's been assigned there. And then it says consequence, blah, 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 parent contact. So the kid knows I contacted the parent right here by email. And then it says if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact the assigning staff member, which is right here. Where is it? What? Staff member name what? Above at Helster Middle School at 7508-725. So that's how that works. Okay, so then the next one, I just changed it from dear student to dear parent. So that goes to the parent. Dear parent, this email for you, your child received discipline, blah, blah, blah. I could go through all that again. Okay, and then this is the one that the lunch detention teacher gets, and you'll notice there's really nothing that he needs to do. He doesn't even need to open his email because it's all in the subject line. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm not going to go through, just because of time, I'm not going to go through the office referral for missing assignment, but I do want to show you something neat about that one. So I'm just going to write some gibberish now just to make it fast. And who's ever received an office referral that's incomplete? Meaning it had the kid's name on there, but it didn't even tell what day it happened, what time it happened, where it happened, any of that. Guess what? All that's over with. They have to complete, everything's required. So they have to complete everything or they can't submit it. So they can't just put in gibber, or I guess they could put in gibber in there, but they don't, and they didn't last year. So I'm just going to complete this one real quick. Okay, I'm going to go to missing assignment just to show you this neat, because this one works just like the behavior mark work. When you get an email, it looks just the same. And I'm going to hit next, but here's the cool thing. Let's say it's behavior missing assignment number 3. Remember, this is going to a parent if you have a parent email. And right here in this place, what can you do? What would be amazing for a parent to have? A link to the assignment. And our parents love it. So our teachers hyperlink the assignment there, paste in the assignment. Instead of just putting the worksheet number 3, they put the actual assignment in right there. So that all they do is just put a hyperlink in there from their Google Classroom, and then their parents are able to click on that and say, you're going to do this tonight. And it just takes out all of the, well, what assignment is it? Where do I get it? Who can I get it from? It takes it all out of there. So anyway, that's what it looks like. And when they're in their email, it shows up as a hyperlink if it's an actual URL address. Okay, so I won't go through that one. I'm going to actually back up. Oops. Remember, I don't want to do it that way. And now I'm a teacher, and I've just filled out this office referral on a kid. Okay, so this kid just punched a kid in the face, and I'm filling out an office referral on this kid now. Okay, so I'm going to click office referral, and I'm going to hit next. And I'm going to put, it was fighting, and it was in the hallway, and here's what you're going to love the best as an administrator, these 2 next boxes. A lot of times I get this, I get that again. Okay, we've actually talked about taking that box off because it kind of is a duplicate, but this is the one that saves you tons of time. How many times have you got an office referral that says Billy Bob was fighting, and here's the date, blah, 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 and you're like, well, who was he fighting? Who saw it? What happened? You know, this saved me millions of hours this year. So they'll put, Miss Smith saw it, Angie Smith was standing there, you know, Billy Bob was standing, Johnny was standing there, blah, blah, blah. So then I can call all those kids up before I even call the kid up that was fighting and just find out what was happening. Or put him back in the counselor's area and then find out from all those kids, all the data, have them write all their sheets. Boom, I'm not going, well, now who saw this? What happened? You know, I mean, it saves like bazillions of time. So I'll just put who saw it right here. Now, when you get an email, you'll see that this is not going to be, a parent would never get this because I didn't choose this field to share with a parent in an email because that would be just insane, right? The parent would know who the witnesses were. Okay, so then when a teacher gets right to here, then they have a choice. They can send it to me, Misty, or Todd. Okay? So let's just send it to me so you can see what it looks like. And I'm going to hit next, and then the teacher submits it, and I'll go back to my email. Get rid of these 3 while that one's coming through. And there it is. Now I've set it up like this. You'll see this student office referral right here. Let me get rid of this one. I set this up like this just like I did the lunch detention, so I don't even have to open the office referral. I know who to call to the office from what. I knew who to call to the office. That's gibber Jash, but normally that'd say a name right there. I just typed in a bunch of stuff. But I don't even have to open my email. I know that this kid got an office referral and I need to see him. So I put that in the subject line. Does that make sense? On the form email. So then if I click on this, then here's everything he did. This is the form I just filled out. This is what he was fighting. He was in the hallway. It happened, you know, with Billy Bob and Samantha Smith. And this next piece I want you to realize is a huge piece. I put a link to, you know how your form is linked to an Excel sheet? Does everybody understand that? That hyperlink right here is the Google Excel sheet, which saves me tons of time. So now I don't have to go find the sheet to assign a consequence. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm going to show you how I assign a consequence. So then I would click on this sheet. It's going to take me, and this is where I was practicing with Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. I practiced with all those just so you'd get a kick out of it. I'd slide over here to this bottom part. Now, I know to do this, and you just have to figure this out on your form, but if I delete these 3 fields right here, because it tried to send something, there was nothing in those 3 fields, and so it didn't send anything. And then I recreate the form here, and again, this is the more complicated part. This is the form I just filled out. I'm just going to scroll through it so I can get to the consequence part, okay? So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. I'm going to hit next. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here. Remember, this is where a teacher picked my name. This was the form they just filled out. Now I'm going to pick that I'm an administrator, and it's going to take me to a section where I can assign a consequence. I'm going to give the kid lunch detention, and I'm going to give it to him the next day for 1 day, and then I'm going to show you the parent contact. I think I have my name already in there. Let's see. Oh, yes, I love it when that happens. All right, so this would be the parent and the student that I would be notifying of what their consequence would be. I would also click that I'm the administrator, and then let me show you, I built all this in it. Okay, this is the last thing that I picked. That first name is my lunch detention teacher, so I'd want him to know about it because I assigned that kid to assign. The second guy is my PM detention teacher, okay? The third choice right here, this is my secretary, and my registrar. I want to tell them, I wouldn't want to tell them unless I was suspending the kid, because if I was suspending them, I'd check this box and then they'd know to make it right in attendance. And then the other one would put it in e-school as a discipline piece. Does that make sense? So then, if I suspend the kid from computer privileges, I'd check this box, because this is my computer lab tech, and then she'd take away his ability to log in. And it's all automated, and they know what to do. She keeps track of when to put their computer privileges back. Once I touch it, I'll never touch it again. This is the All-Stars, all the All-Stars teachers, and the counselor, the Avengers, Olympians, Legends, Defenders, and Chargers. Those are all my teachers. So now they're wanting to know what's going to happen to this kid that just got in a fight, right? So then I would click on these teams. Let's just say I want these teachers to know about it. I would just click right here. And then right down here's my ISS guy, if I wanted him to have a copy of it also, because he wants to know why you're sending the kid to ISS. So then that's how you notify all your teachers and your counselors, okay? Is everybody following me so far? So if I put I'm going to uncheck these, because if I leave them checked and they get this email, they're going to be like, what? Especially Gary Ware. And I'm going to put my email right here so you can see what it looks like. And I'm going to hit submit. So then when I go back to my emailer, or my email, let me delete this one so we don't get confused. And I keep hitting refresh. Then this is the email that teachers will get. Come on, come through. There it is. So here's what the teachers will get now. There should be 3 emails that I get right here. Okay, so here's the student email right here. Here's the parent email, and I'll open one just to show you. So now you'll see that the consequence is lunch detention. It's assigned on this day. It could say out-of-school suspension and assigned on these days too. I mean, it really could. If I ever emailed an out-of-school suspension and an ISS, I'd always call too. So after the email, I would have their phone number out beside that. Now, if you put the phone number first and then the email second, it won't go through because it won't recognize the phone number as an email. But if you'll flip them around, put email first, comma, space, phone number, then you have all that documented in your Excel spreadsheet that you send them an email and you talk to them by phone, via phone. Does that make sense? Okay, so here's the one that the lunch detention teacher, this is the one the office gets. And if you'll notice, I didn't fill out the code, but if I want, everybody knows the e-school codes, I could put it in 69 there, and then the code would be in there. And then she'd know how to code it in e-school. Does that make sense? Any questions about any of that? I know it's a ton of stuff, and I don't mind help building this with you if you want to ever build one, because it'd take maybe an hour for us to sit down and get everything perfect for you. Okay, so any questions about how that works, or the functionality, or anything? Here's something else. One real quick thing. Who knows Kelly Boards? Okay, she loved this. I actually copied all of my 7th grade discipline and sorted it by alpha, and then cut it out of my form, out of my Excel sheet, and gave it to her. So she knows all the 7th graders, everything that has happened to them, from missing assignments to behavior marks to office referrals to ISS to restorative justice to reverse suspensions. I mean, she knows all of it, which she loved. Okay, just to show you the plethora of stuff that we pick from. Let me do this as an administrator, and we utilized all of these. It's going to reset on me. Hang on. There it goes. Okay, so here's all of the stuff that an administrator can pick from. Let's see. Where is it? Right here. You could really make up whatever you wanted to. No contact contract, that's hyperlinked in the form too. It's right here. If you click that hyperlink, it'll go to a no contract contract. The expulsion forms are in there, hyperlinked for you. The no bus warning, bus suspension, lunch detention, AM or PM, tutoring, mandatory tutoring in the morning, in the afternoon, computer use suspension, restorative justice. Counselors will be scheduled a time with the student to talk through reconciliation. Reverse suspension, parent attends school. Let me just tell you, I signed probably 14 reverse suspensions this year, and I never had a problem one out of that kid ever again after that. I take it back. One kid kept having problems. But once I signed a reverse suspension, the Zippo problem ISS, OSS, expulsion, and then you could just make up your own, whatever you wanted to make up there. Okay, any questions about that? Jason, I think you had a question.
Well, actually, I just sent it to you in an email, but
Okay.
I was just wondering, I love how you got the links to your registrar and secretaries
Right.
and the IT. Did you create some kind of guiding documents for those folks so that, hey, if you get an office referral, these are the steps that I want you to do?
I didn't. I try to always let everybody come up with their own way, and if it works their own way, great, and if it doesn't, then I go to that. Let's come up with a system. So they just came up with a great system on their own.
So it's just a conversation of, hey, you're gonna get some office
Yes.
referrals. do
My
what you do.
registrar loves it because she said I get an email. If I want to do it right then, I can. I don't have those office referrals sitting on my desk waiting to be put into e-school. I just do it at my leisure whenever I want to do it. And I like that she likes that. The secretary who does attendance, like codes at ISS and OSS, she loves it too because she said, you know, I get an email, I know I need to do it right then, the dates are very clear. Sometimes, you know, we as administrators will write up in one of those triplicate forms and they're like, what's this say? You know what I mean? What days is he out? And you know, I can't read your handwriting, man, this is a mess. And that's true. She loves it, it's just very black and white. She's very black and white though, so. Any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna have to go kind of quick because I told myself I was only gonna spend 30 minutes on the office referral so I could get through everything else. Again, I know that's a lot of information, and Form Mule makes all that work. And if I go back to my presentation, I gave you a little cheat sheet to Form Mule. Let's see, right here. If you'll click on this, this is how I set up my Form Mule. It's got all the directions there for you, and if you'll walk yourself through that, you can set it up too. We're very easy. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I'll just tell you that. Okay, so let me show you one more thing. This is the printable. Oh, one thing about it. If you wanted to give a kid a paper copy, because I've had parents request a paper copy. Let's just say Angelina Jolene. You see her right here on this spreadsheet? Let's say that parent came in and said, you know, Angelina's never in any trouble and I want a copy of this because I'm gonna fight this. Okay, well, if you want a copy of it, there's lots of ways you can do this. I just chose to do it this way. All I have to know is what row Angelina Jolene is on. I know it's row 2, right? I created this little form down here at the bottom. I just put in number 2 here, enter, there it is. Print it out, done. It just pulled in all her information into an office referral where the parent can sign it and all that if you want to do that. You see this right here? That prints out just like an office referral if somebody wants a copy. I did that 20 times last year, maximum. Okay? And it's just pulling in fields from your other referral, and that's all built. You have access to that too, and you can see how I build it and all that.
So
Okay?
if a parent didn't request it, you didn't have a signed
I
copy?
did not. Mm-mm. Nope.
Even for something like a suspension?
Suspensions I did.
Okay.
Anything tier 2 and above I did, but lunch detentions and stuff I did not. Okay.
Maybe like forgotten assignment or something?
Right. Yeah, missing assignment, stuff like that. I didn't do any tier 1s. No tier 1s at all.
How do you know that they got the email? Is there any type of,
To the kid or the parent?
the parent?
First of all, the form email will tell you if it went through successfully. Okay? If it didn't go through successfully, it'll tell you that also. And you know, that's probably a catch. We really don't know. But a lot of times our teachers would call, I'd say 50-50 our teachers would call, or 50-50 our teachers put in an email. If they didn't hear anything or see any improvement in the kid's behavior, they would call the parent then. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay, so let me go back to my presentation and close some of these windows because I'm getting like window crazy. Form Mule, filtering emails. Oh, also the lunch detention teacher, Gary Ware, didn't want to get 9,000 emails from lunch detentions being assigned. So all you have to do is filter your email. Does everybody know how to filter email? Okay, it's very easy. That lunch detention email said lunch detention. So I just went to filter and I put in the subject line anything that said lunch detention went to the lunch detention folder. If you need to know how to do a filtered email, you can call me and I can walk you through it in 30 seconds. It's very easy. So when he goes to the cafeteria to do his lunch detention duty, he just clicks on that folder and there's all his lunch detention stuff, and it never graces his inbox at all. And the same thing with PM and AM detention. That never goes in Paul Thomas's inbox ever. Okay? So it doesn't come up their inboxes either. Probably the coolest thing about this is the data that you get. Let me show you here on this one that I just had open. The data that you get from this form, and remember this is just one that I've just been playing around with, but you go to responses, and everybody's seen this before, I'm sure. But right down here you can see, okay, 10 boys were written up as compared to 3 girls. Or you can say the grade levels. There were 7 7th graders written up and 6 6th graders. And you can see down here the time of incident. So you might want to shift your duty schedule around to the hallway or something. And this is the place, the student's team. Here's all the teachers that wrote up people and how many people they wrote up. You see what I'm saying? Here's every teacher in our building. And here's what they wrote up. Here's the time of incident. So you might, or the type of incident. Here's the behavior marks. If it was a behavior mark number 2, or if it was behavior mark, and we saw data that showed, I could show you our data if you want me to, but it shows 56%, of the people got behavior mark number 1, then 25 got behavior mark number 2, and then like 10 got behavior mark number 3. So we see a decrease as it moves through the continuum. Okay. So this data here that you get is really, really good stuff. So let me go back to my presentation. In the last presentation I did, we actually built Formula, and I took them through all that, but we don't have time to do that today. Okay, so I'm gonna go through these pretty quickly. This is a Google Counselor referral, and I'm actually gonna go to ours. Yeah, it's okay for me to just show you this. So this is one that's in your packet too. If you want to refer, we want kids referring kids. What do kids tell kids? A lot more than they tell adults, right? So we want kids filling this out on kids. We want kids, teachers filling this out on kids. We want parents filling this out on kids. This is on our webpage so that anybody can fill out a counsel referral for anybody. And basically it's first, last name, grade, date, and time, the team the kid's on. Name of person filling out this form is optional. You don't have to put your name there if you don't want to. And then you can put the level of severity and what the issue is, submit. It goes immediately to both our counselors, to their email boxes, inboxes, okay? So if you'd like to use that, you're welcome to use that. This nurse form is the same exact form. I just changed the name and put nurse. So they're the exact same identical form. The nurse loved this form because now when kids come to the nurse, she just gets on the spreadsheet and from where they did the referral and just types in what had happened at that time. So she's not having to make another referral process and all that, another Excel sheet or anything. She just adds it to the end of this referral. Does anybody have any questions about nurse or counselor referral? Okay, I'm gonna keep moving then because there's a lot of them. Attendance and tardy check-in, check-out flow chart. Can everybody read that, or is that too small? I'm gonna give you just a nutshell. This will change probably because of the new attendance policy, but basically that any attendance 1 through 7 are teams called on, teachers called on, okay? So 1 through 7 teachers called on any kid missing or sent an email or whatever they needed to do if a kid was missing a lot. And I can't tell you how many times in a team meeting, and I'd say, why is Billy Bob have an F? Well, he's never here. Well, have you all called? No, we haven't called, but we're gonna call today. Okay, so it really started a culture shift in our building, okay? Then when it gets to 7 to 10, our counselors call and say, hey, I've noticed you've missed 7 days, and how can we help? Do you need an alarm clock? Can we get you a bus scheduled? Can you get on a bus? What's the problem? They never come at it from a discipline standpoint of, hey, you're gonna get offends if a parent even brought that up about DHS offends, they'd transfer the call to me. They'd say, oh, I don't know, you need to talk to Mr. Donnell or Ms. Harrison about that. Then 10 on, we would call, and then it would become punitive. It would be like, hey, listen, we really don't want to do this, but how can we help? If we can't make things better, we are going to have to consider offense. We're going to have to look at DHS. This really helped our attendance, especially our chronic attendance people, okay? That's just the flow chart. I'm going to close that out, and I'm going to show you what Google Forms kind of took off at our school. Like after we did the office referral, then teachers were like, hey, and this was a teacher idea. They're like, they said, boy, it takes a lot of time to call on attendance, and could you make a form for it that would do attendance? And I was like, man, that's a great idea. So I did this. So I'm gonna again put in Jacob, H-A, and the staff member name is Damon Donnell. Number of absences, you can pick 8, however many. And I'm putting my email in here just so you can see what it looks like. Hopefully I've got this one set up. I think I do. I may not have though. We'll find out real fast. Yes, so here it is. So it says, dear parent, this email is being sent to inform you Jacob Hayward currently has missed 8 days of school. If you would like to check your child's attendance, and all I did was just put a hyperlink to what? Yeah, to HAC. Let's put a hyperlink right to Hack. So boom, they can log in and check their child's attendance and grades and all that.
That's better than last semester.
Yeah, exactly. That's hilarious. Okay, so then it says, if you have any questions or concerns, please call Hellstrom Middle School and ask to speak to Damon Donnell. Don't ask to speak to the principal. Don't ask to speak, because I don't even know they've sent this. You see what I'm saying? So I asked to speak to Donnell, the staff member Donnell. That's a very easy to set up at your school. The F thing is the exact same thing. Let me go back to this. So now I've been saying, listen, it should never be a surprise to a parent for a kid to come home and have an F on their report card. And the parent goes, you know, first of all, why didn't you follow the matrix, right? That happens every once in a while. We'll have a kid with an F and that teacher just neglected to do some things. It's not any fault of theirs. They're busy too. And this, by the way, is in an effort to make their job way easier, okay? If you make their job easier and to give them less time to do stuff, you know, that takes a lot of time, they can spend more time with kids and have more of an impact with kids. So the DNF parent emailer, it's the same exact thing. I'm just going to use Jacob again because we all know that he doesn't do well in school. Can't spell it. I'll put Donnell wrote him up, or just was concerned about his attendance. I hit submit, and I tried to make those only 4 questions long, so that a teacher could do 10 of those in like 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Like literally, really fast. And then, so I go back over here to my email, and here it is, already waiting for me. This email is to inform you that Jacob Wayward currently has a D or F in one or multiple classes. Now, I did that for a reason, because I didn't want, if I started putting what class it was and what the score was, it's just more information and more time that they have to stick in there, right? Because really what we're wanting to communicate to the parent is the grades aren't good. You need to get involved. So D or F in multiple classes. If you want to check his grades, click on Hack again, boom, move forward. Who can use these? Anybody? Good. I hope so. And the emailer is easy. Those 2 emailers would take you 5 minutes to set up, really, honestly, because it's a breeze to set those up. The office referral is just more complicated. Okay, I went to Central to sign my daughter out for a doctor's appointment. And when I signed her out on who's got clipboards? Everybody raise your hand, you got clipboards. Okay, when I signed her out on the clipboard, I saw Libby Hall was at the doctor, and I go, hey, Libby Hall's at the doctor. And the secretary goes, you know, this is really bothering me that everybody can see everybody. And I thought, crap, I don't want everybody to see that I'm taking case to the doctor either, you know what I mean? So I thought, I went back, I was driving to the doctor, and I was like, a Google form. I really was. I was like, this is awesome. So we started this at our school. And basically, we have a Chromebook sitting up at the office, okay? And this is what a parent fills out. And this goes right to our secretary. This pops up on her screen every time somebody fills one of these out. So they have students' first name, last name, grade, sign in or sign out, what team they're on, and I just tried to put the most used excuses on there. Like doctor's appointment, leaving early, running late. I also put like 18th flat tire, but as a joke, and my secretary loved it, but then I took it off there because, you know, parents were seeing that and everything. So it was pretty funny though. She was like, I'll leave it on there, and I'm like, I'm not leaving that on there. So parents hit submit on this, and it pops up on her screen immediately. Actually, I wonder if I can't, because I have it set up for Darcy's email, so I can't put my email on there to show you what it looks like. But really, it just shares to the spreadsheet. It doesn't email anybody. It just shares to the spreadsheet, and then she gets an automatic notification right on her email, or not email, but on her screen that shows that somebody just signed it in. So the nice thing about that is she can be sitting there at her computer, somebody signing in a parent, or signing out a kid, and she can check the card stuff without really even like causing too much, you know, like she'd still be doing what she's doing. Our parents love that, okay? The only hitch that we found in it was if they're signing out 5 kids, they gotta do that 5 times. But you saw it takes 10 seconds to do. They'd have to write it 5 times if they were doing that anyway, you know what I mean?
The one thing you don't have on here, is there a reason and time?
It time stamps it on this Excel spreadsheet, so we didn't need to even put time on there. That's a good point though.
So that you can later pull up on the other end how many times the parents checked a child out at 10 till 3 for the doctor.
Yes, and here's something else. We share this with our staff so that our staff can get in there, and if their kid's not in class, they don't even have to call the office and bug the secretaries. They can just look first to see if the kid is signed out or signed in. Does that make sense? So that, and we share it view only so that they can't, you know what I mean, they can't mess it up or anything. But then Darcy I don't know if y'all know Darcy Klein, but she's real particular about how she wants everything. So when I first introduced this to her, she's like, I don't want another Google form, I don't want to do this. I was like, hey. On the inside, I was like, please do this, this would be great. But on the outside, I was like, hey, no problem. Will you commit to one time during the day that you'll just try it? She's like, how about fifth block? Nobody signs in and out on that time, or hardly anybody, and we'll just try it one time during that time. And I was like, sounds good to me. I went back in my office, and I was like, oh, please, 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 So then, it wasn't even an hour after fifth block, she came in my office, she's like, okay, I know I was a little, short with you on this, but I like it a lot. Can we use it all the time? And I was like, yes, we can use it all the time. Now, here's something that we found. This is linked on our homepage too, and our office aides in the morning when kids come in late and stuff, they know that we usually have about 3 or 4 Chromebooks in the front office, and they know to have 4 Chromebooks sitting out, ready to go for kids coming in late. So instead of one kid signing in at a time, now you can have 4 at a time. You can have 20 at a time if you wanted to. You see what I'm saying? So you can have 4 stations of Chromebooks right there on that front piece. As kids come in, they just sign in on their Chromebook. So you're doing 4, 8, 12. I mean, you're signing in a lot of kids late really fast, and they know to do that every morning. And if they don't need them, then they just close them back up, stick them right back over. Because when we have kids get in trouble or something, we have them get a Chromebook and do their assignments in the office. So does that make sense?
Do you make your parents come in the morning and sign in?
Yeah, yes. When parents come in, we try to make every parent come in, but you know this, the drive-by real fast, get out of the car. And the kids rolling on the ground and coming into school, need to see the nurse.
Kids do this themselves if their parents aren't with them.
Yes, yeah. Does that make sense? This has been a great thing for us.
We started using it second semester, Damon.
Yes.
SOI, just to try it out, and, we enjoyed it quite a bit. We're getting some good data out of it. We added, instead of teams, because I was
Right.
looking at those, we did advisor.
Yes.
With the idea being that then the advisor could go and pull that report.
I love it.
See, the only thing we kind of ran into was a lot of parents don't know who their kid's advisor, which
Right.
speaks volumes to
Right.
the breakdown in communication.
Right. We just did team because most parents know what team they're on. You know what I mean? But that's a good point. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this form. Any questions about that form? If there's one form that you do, you don't have to call it this. If there's one form that you do at your school next year, this is the one that you do at your school next year. Without a question. It's a My Hero form. And all this form is that when a staff member catches another staff member doing something awesome, or a kid catches a staff member, or a staff member catches a kid, or a parent catches a staff member, or a parent catches a kid, or whatever it is. And we've had students fill these out on their parents and say how wonderful they think their parent is. So I'm going to just take you to our current one. And each 9 weeks, anybody who got a My Hero award got a pizza party. Whether it's a staff member, a parent, or whatever, it just builds a great culture at your school of bragging and talking about each other and positivity. So I'm gonna click some of these forms close so I don't get confused here. All right, so here's My Hero is just in my ribbon up here. I'm just gonna click on it, and I'm going to put TODD, Todd, LOFTIN. And I'm gonna hit 6th grade, and I'm gonna hit the 15th. He's an Olympian. Name of person filling this out. This is gonna go to my whole staff. So when I was doing this in test, I was putting demo down there, and everybody's like, I buy everybody in 7th grade. I did 7th grade last year, so anybody who got a My Hero form, I had a candy bar waiting for them. Shh, don't tell anybody. All right, so. Yeah. All right. So I'd hit submit, and this is going to go to the entire staff, including myself, because hopefully I'm still on the email list. They haven't taken me off yet. And I have this one set up for under my email, so it probably says it's coming from me. Right there it is. So it says My Hero is, and it says My Hero is Todd Lofton, 6th grade, Olympians. The person filling out Damon Donnell, Todd is great. And that went out to the entire staff. Because on the to form, on the form emailer, I just put hellstern-faculty@sdl.org, so it goes to everybody. Does that make sense? So this one is a really great way. Now here's another really cool part of it. If you go back to My Hero form, and teachers have unlimited access to this form, they can actually do this. So now if I want to really show Todd, how great I think he is, I can print a certificate out for him by going to this spreadsheet here. And remember the other one, the office referral thing that you could print out? I just made this one fancier, so it looks prettier. So this is what my Hero Award looks like. So if I go back to my form here, and I find Todd Lofton, what number he is, he's gonna be number 173. So I go right here and type in 173, enter, and it should say Todd Lofton in a second. There's Todd Lofton, Olympians. Todd is great. I print that out and give it to him. See what I'm saying? You can do that. You could actually have it email Todd Lofton a PDF. You could put an emailer in there. I mean, I've got all kinds of ideas for SOI for this. I mean, to really make it even better than what it is right now. So this would be a great thing to do. I highly recommend this form. I'm gonna bring up one of them. I'm just gonna type in some numbers and show you what staff have done here. Let's see, 143. So first name is, somebody wrote Noah Borkin. She's our garden core lady, food core. So Noah Borkin, the garden lady, and this is from Greg Hersey, he's a science teacher in our building. He wrote, Noah does a wonderful job running our garden and educating our kids in the outdoor classroom. Our kids love her and appreciate her. We will miss you next year. So I'll do another one. Give me a number below 170. 75. This is, somebody wrote Evan Paul is the last name, and it is Miss Cartmel. She's a math teacher in our building. She wrote, Evan stayed a little after school and picked up trash in my room without even being asked. He's always on task and works very hard. He is a great student and a joy to have in class. The beauty about this is, now when Evan goes to lunch, guess who has seen this? All the lunch ladies have seen this on their email. So when Evan comes through the lunch line, they're like, Evan, I heard what you did for Miss Cartmel. That's awesome. You see what I'm saying? When he goes to the library, Miss Vanderbaum is the librarian, says, Evan, you are amazing, man. You're awesome. Everybody's bragging on Evan that day. Does that make sense? So it's a big deal. Okay, give me another number. We'll do one more. 40. This is Connor James. If you knew Connor James, you'd know him. Tammy Wynn. She's a social studies teacher in our building. Connor unstacks the chairs in each of our classrooms almost every morning. And everybody bragged. I bragged on Connor that day because Connor is a great kid, but he struggles in some areas. He needed that, really, to be honest with you. And every time it's a 7th grader, I get an email that says it's a 7th grader. I call that kid in, and a lot of times I'll call their parent and say, hey, they got a My Hero Award. I mean, you can call it whatever you want to. You can call it, a night award or whatever you want to do with it. But you can, I usually give them a candy bar, call their parent, talk to them about it, and just really ham them up, okay? So use that if you'd like. Where did my presentation? I think I closed my presentation. Oopsie. See if I can get it back here. As soon as I close it, it works. You see that? I lost patience and I closed it and it started working. There it is. Okay, so we did My Hero Award. Quick IEP at a glance. This one, I think you'll like this one. Is this a copy? I can't remember. I don't think it is. All right, so every year my SPED teachers come in and they do a flex day training. How much time I got? I got 10 minutes, perfect. They do a flex day where they come in and they give information out on IEPs and 504s. We'll use this for 504 and IEPs and everything. We'll just change the title of it. So and I ran this through the SPED guru, Petra. She's tested it, looked at it. She says she loves it. She says it meets all the qualifications under the law and everything. So here's what we do. I'll type in, pick on Sara again, but this time we're gonna pick on Sara Ford. All right, what's your disability, Sara? She's definitely autistic. Let's see. Let's do that. That's actually better. I like that. Is ODD on here? It's not on here. She's been accused of having a hearing impairment. All right. So we'll just pick some of that. We'll do indirect speech, related services. She gets PT. Let's see, special education teacher, you'd have to type these in yourself. These are my specific teachers at my school. We'll say Angie Bassett. And we changed these to the ACT Aspire accommodations, so these are all current accommodations. So let's just say that she needs extended time. And here, the only thing they have to have is their C's pulled up for Sarah Ford, and they'll cut the classroom modifications and paste it right here. Okay, I'm just going to put test here so you'll see that what it does. And then, when they want to notify their teachers, here's my All-Stars, Olympians. Now, you don't have teams like Jacob doesn't have teams. He just have a list of teachers, all their emails, and he just click the teachers that has on that kid's schedule. That's all he do. He's just going to click, 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 click until he finds all the teachers that he needs to send this information to. Does that make sense? I'm not going to click anybody, but I'm going to type my email down here. And let me make sure it's right. D. Donnell. I put too many N's. I knew that looked weird. DONNELL@SDL.org. Okay, then I hit submit, go back to my email, and this is what a teacher would get. Come on, work on me here. There it is. Okay, this is what a teacher would get. The purpose of this email is to inform you that the student below has been classified under the Individuals with Disability Act of 2004 by receiving this email. Understand that under federal law, you're responsible for implementing and documenting that all below modifications are provided. You will no longer be required to sign these accommodations, as this email will serve as your notification documentation. Please print these modifications for your records and electronically file this email for future reference. For further explanation and clarification of these emails, please visit with me at your earliest convenience. Sarah Ford, hearing impairment. She has deficit areas in reading comprehension and reading fluency.
She's got some behavior issues.
Physical therapy, the teacher's name if you want to contact to explain some of this is Angie Bassett. She gets extended time on ACT testing, and then here's her classroom accommodations, which would be test, but if you cut and paste it right there, it'll show all the classroom accommodations. Does that make sense? Boom, you're done. It's very simple. And our teachers, this was actually another Nancy O'Brien, who I dearly will miss at Hillstrom Middle School. She's a phenomenal SPED teacher, phenomenal. Came to me and said, hey Damon, you know how we used to have all this by paper, okay? We'd have a quick IEP that they'd fill this out on, make 8,000 copies, you know, put them all together, put the accommodation page in there and all that, and she's like, could you help me make this form and maybe we could just automate it? And then this is what came out of it, okay? So use that if you like it too.
The part where you have the emails that you automatically update, is that part of Google Forms or is that?
That's part of Form Mule in the Excel side. Okay, now you can run it through this, but I'd have to think about how to run it through this through Form Publisher. But you can run it just through the form if you want. I like to run it through Form Mule because it keeps that Excel sheet, it keeps everything nice and tidy for me.
And then where do we get to the Form Mule?
When you go to here, I'll just show you real quick. When you go to your Excel sheet, let me go back to this. So I'd go to the responses and I click here and this little button right here that says add-ons. What you're going to do, you'll see Form Mule's already on mine. See it right here? But what you would do is get add-ons and then type in Form Mule and add that add-on. Now when you get on Form Mule, you're going to be like, I don't know how to do this. But if you'll go back to that template that I showed you, you'll see that it's very easy. Just do the template exactly like I have it, and then you'll be fine on it. I'd highly recommend that when you start to build your Form Mule, just call me on the phone. I'll walk you through it. It's very simple. I do the same thing for 504s. The same email to say, you know, your child's been classified under a Rehabilitation Act 1973 and blah, 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 blah. This is your documentation and all that. So it's the same exact thing for 504. Okay? Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, this is a big deal here. Everything's a big deal, huh? Okay, so how do you do lesson plans at your school? I started lesson plans this year through Google Classroom, and I will never go back, okay, unless somebody makes me go back. But let me just show you how cool this is. So all our teachers submit their lesson plans. They'll get an email reminder on Tuesday that their lesson plans are due Monday, okay, through the classroom. I've set it up that way. And then they turn in their lesson plans through the classroom. So here's the cool, beautiful thing about it. If I click on this, We weren't real hard on who turned in lesson plans the last couple of weeks of school, but the weeks prior, you can see we were pretty hard. Here's the nice thing about it. Let's just say you wanted to go do a classroom observation. You can click right here and find any teacher's lesson plan. Like if I wanted to watch Rhett this week, here's his lesson plan, and I can just review it before I even go into his classroom, okay? Here's another beauty thing about it. The people who neglected to turn them in, you can click this button right here, not done, go up to this email button, and it blind CCs all those teachers. You can see it already did it for me, blind CCs all those teachers, and now I can just say, hey, I didn't get your lesson plans this week. Please turn your lesson plans in ASAP. And boom, send, and it goes out to all those teachers. Does that make sense? So now no longer do you have to know, is somebody turning in lesson plans or are they not? It's just boom, right in your face right there if they are or aren't. It's real easy to do. If you want help setting that up, I'll help you set that up too. I don't have time to show you how to set it up. It's really, seriously, you can do the whole, and if you set this up, set up the whole entire year. Don't do like 2 weeks and then say, hey, in 2 weeks, I'm going to set up the rest of the year, because you won't. And then they'll say, where's our email reminder, right? Because you didn't set it up, because that happened to me. I set it up through Christmas, and then they got so used to getting the email reminder that they're less. The reason why they wanted an email reminder on Tuesdays, anybody super smart and know why? Not Friday. Why did they want an email reminder the prior Tuesday before the lesson plans were due on Monday? PLCs. They wanted to do their lesson plans in PLCs, right? Which we want them to do that too. And then so they formed all that in PLCs, and then they turned in the lesson plans, most of them on Friday before they left for the weekend, and boom, they were there waiting on us on Monday when we did classroom walkthroughs or whatever. And it just keeps it all nice and tidy in one little place. And I just did it makes plan and then the date of the week, and lesson plan the week, lesson plan the week. You know what I mean? Like 9/16/04 or whatever it was. So that's how when I told my secretary she was no longer going to have to collect lesson plans and put them in binders and put them on our desk, by whatever subject we saw, she cried. She literally cried. And call her if you don't believe me. She's like, I'm not going to have to spend 2 hours, sorting these lesson plans and calling teachers and asking. I was like, nope, you're not going to have to do that anymore. She's like, she is Darcy. She like bawled about it. It's just a really good thing. Okay, somehow I clicked out of my thing again. I think I got one more thing here. Let's see, that was lesson plans. Yeah, this is the last thing here. Okay, so Google Docs, who agrees, can be overwhelming, and forms and Excel sheets and all that. It can be overwhelming, right? So what I try to always listen to good or bad what people have to say. And I tried to make this easier again on teachers. So what I did was, I created this Google Doc. It's called, I have it right here in my ribbon. It's called All Google Docs in one location. And I share this with my staff about on a bi-weekly basis. Reshare it and reshare it and reshare it. So if you'll notice the office referrals on here, the student parent contact, this is where all the emails, where they can just open that up if they don't want to open eSchool and just cut and paste the phone numbers right from that, or the emails or whatever. The attendance flow chart's on there. The attendance form is on there where they can just go right to it. The council referral form's on there. Everything that we do. Info, I even put DS1 and info on there. Just in case they wanted to go to those and they couldn't remember how to get there, I stuck everything on there. Club list, Ed Reflect, here's Bloomboard right here if they can't remember how to get there. Just hyperlink everything on a Google Doc is all I've done. Map testing, here's all the training docs. You might want this. I don't know if anybody had trouble with this, but I did. This is a map request to retake map test. I don't know who gives that, but I had a requirement that the kid had to go down by 10 points before we even should consider that. Because that's still within that RIT range. Does that make sense? A kid could fluctuate way in there, plus or minus 10, or minus 10 and still be within the range. So that's just another little side note. Let's see, ACT, all our ACT training docs and everything were all in here. Everything in one location, our Hero Blast plans, our tryout of the week. Everything was in there that I felt like teachers needed to be able, and I had a lot of older teachers, like 30-year veterans, come to me and hug my neck and tell me thank you because they didn't have to find stuff anymore. They just put that in the ribbon and then they were just always on the same page. Does that make sense? So that helped them a ton. And I think that's everything. And I think I'm 1 minute over. Let me just double check. I don't know how I keep closing that. I think it just keeps replacing it, doesn't it? Let's see. Yes, that's everything. Okay, any questions? No questions? Again, I don't mind helping you set up your form mule or your form publisher. If you got some crazy idea to do something, I don't mind helping you do that. So I'd be more than happy to do that. Matter of fact, I'm doing that right after this training. I'm gonna go help an assistant principal set up her form. So, nothing? Okay. Have a great weekend. Oh yeah. That's right.